Good morning, Scott here, known as Cantaloupe to some online, and I'm bringing another video to you on a subject that's interesting to me. It might be of interest to you or someone you know, and I want to talk about brain rot. Maybe you've heard about brain rot. It's a phrase going around. A lot of people are saying it. It's part of a game, maybe Roblox, I want to say. I'm not sure entirely, but it's a bigger idea, actually. Brain rot is an idea that people are getting stupider. I want to talk about some of the causes, some of the potential causes that can make that happen, and what we can do about it, hopefully. So just in a few minutes here, it won't be a long video, but bottom line, spoiler alert, it's tied very closely to commerce. And most people, if you ask them, will tell you that business is a great model, capitalism is good, buying and selling, supply and demand, letting the market dictate the price, and what you do, you accomplish a few things. Just as an aside, a little bit of background, you accomplish a few things with this model. First of all, you automate things. It runs itself, basically. But since it runs itself, there is less of a decision-making process as far as what gets made. In our model of economics, everything gets made that is not specifically illegal. We have our solution to things getting made that are potentially toxic or dangerous is to ban them. And because everyone is forced to work in this model, they make everything. And I'm not exaggerating. Pharmaceutical companies, agricultural companies, manufacturers, inventors, they have exhaustively combed through every possible thing that they can possibly look at, trying to find something that is marketable. Whether it's, helpful, healthy or not, it makes no difference. We're going to make it. And if we can convince you to buy it, that's the system working. So there's zero oversight. It's what we call agnostic. It doesn't care if it's good or bad. Doesn't care if it's evil. You're allowed to buy alcohol, for example. Now, since it was repealed, since the prohibition was repealed, that's an aside. And my point is, in regards to this, when everything gets made, there are solutions at hand that didn't used to be there. Believe it or not, our economic system has not always been this way. Human beings, that is. It has not always been possible to just run down to the hardware store or, the realtor's office to buy a house or the grocery store to buy your food. And the effect that this has, undeniably, is that people are building things less. They are creating things and making things less. Consider just, if you will, the time before all these stores existed, the time before a solution was expected to be there for you at a price. The only way people got by was to create things all day long. Every single person was making something, building something, scavenging something, inventing something. You had to be all of these things. You had to be a builder, a creator, an inventor. You had to be just to survive back in the day. And that's no longer the case. So here's why, point one of why we're experiencing collective brain rot, because we're much less creative and busy. Imagination and problem solving, making decisions, these are all muscles that you can exercise. And when you fail to exercise them, they get weaker, of course, just like any muscle. So that's point one. Point two is our education has changed. And I know this because I went to school and I saw what they were teaching, and I was right at the tail end of a turning point, I think. That's what it looked like to me. It looked like a turning point, and it was going a different direction kind of before I was in school, back in the 60s and early 70s. It was still headed towards the principle of, not the school principle, but the ideological principle of people being autonomous and independent and empowered with information to pursue happiness and make decisions for the purpose, not just for their own happiness, but so that they could be informed collectively, stay safe collectively without a centralized management system. And the authority was behind this because informed people looked like they would elect proper representation, and it was a genuinely benign impulse. It was a benign design, and it has changed. My point is that there was a turning point about when I was in school, I think, that's what it looked like to me, where our administrators decided that maybe people don't need to know so much. Maybe we shouldn't be telling people so much. I started seeing a lot of things following the 80s, like in the early 90s and moving through the 90s, about secrecy. There was a lot more discussion about business trade secrets and government secrets, about opaque agendas and budgets and whole agencies that are operating covertly, and it just became the norm. And this trickles down. This, the idea and the practice, once legitimized and dignified, trickles down into every aspect of public activity, including and especially education. So in schools, you started seeing things like much narrower coverage of information, especially concerning our local governments and our actual, things that could potentially be um, incendiary is the word. There were more and more omissions every year, year after year. They started removing things until it became that people weren't learning very much in school. School became less about education for the purpose of becoming independent and autonomous than to become employable, which is a whole different idea, actually. Being employable and being a strong, happy, healthy person are completely different things. Being employable could just be for the purpose of paying taxes, and that's kind of what it has turned into, unfortunately. If you ask me, education, they have winnowed it down. They've whittled the curriculums down into, the basic subjects, English, math, science, but only the things that are completely safe to the administration. They don't discuss controversial stuff anymore. It's all in favor and support of the establishment, and it has been carefully sanitized. And if we're being honest, the vast majority of time young people are in school nowadays is just to allow their parents to continue paying taxes while the kids are being prepared to do the same and transition into that lifestyle. It's not about empowerment anymore, not even in principle. And it's obvious, it has become obvious to me. So anyway, this is point two of why people are experiencing collective brain rot. So we haven't had to actually make something. Most of us, there's builders, sure, there's professional builders, but the vast majority of people, you hire somebody or you buy a solution. That's point one. Point two was that schools have changed so that you're not even being given information to chew on anymore. You're not being really expected to think independently. Independent thought has been assassinated. Point three, critical mass. Critical mass of people not questioning things. That is the status quo, normalcy, people acting like other people just because it's normal, people trying to fit in, people, worried about being criticized or called out or getting in trouble. And this point, I cannot stress enough that it has become so that if people question things, there's this programmed reflex that people are expected to give, and that is, oh, you have a tinfoil hat, or oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. And there's these tokens floating around, these little labels that people stick to each other. And guess who invented these ideas? The biggest the funniest, I should say, the funniest conspiracy theory of all is that the people with the most to hide, who are doing the worst stuff, promoted this idea of conspiracy theories being terrible, being crazy, or whatever. How funny is that? But seriously, I mean, people are enforcing the brain rot. They are collectively and mutually encouraging each other to fall back in line, don't act different, don't question things, follow instructions, and stay out of trouble. A good day is when you don't get in trouble. Okay, but what's the effect that has? And if you're extending someone else, do you have permission to even, have your own ideas? Do they give you enough information to think? Because that's the direction it goes in. We've heard this theme before in movies, Bond movies or whatever, where, the evil, the supervillain says, oh, I don't pay you enough to think. That's kind of where we're at, unfortunately. I mean, be honest. Ask yourself, when was the last time you were given an opportunity to really use your decision-making ability, to really use your judgment as an ordinary person? Now, maybe you are an authority, maybe you have some kind of power, but the vast majority of people have been stripped of that power. And it's arguable that it's for their own safety, but it's really not. It's really not, because, like I said before, the muscles that you have as far as decision making goes, and having a moral compass, and having enough information to think independently and chew your own food figuratively, all that stuff, it takes practice. And if you never have an opportunity to practice, you're going to have brain rot. That's the point. So it's not really a mystery. Brain rot is not a mystery. It's partly designed, and it's partly just an unfortunate byproduct of our economic system. And it's partly because you're being targeted. You're being targeted to open your wallet. And I don't want to dive down the tax rabbit hole in this video, but it's a bad problem. It's our government is in a panic about how to obtain money, how to secure funding, and they have their laser sights on your family, and they're separating your kids at kindergarten, and you're so disempowered that you don't even recognize what's happening. You don't recognize that your kids are being stolen out of your household by law at gunpoint at kindergarten, every single one of you. And you're just like, oh no, that's how it is. It's as good as it gets. Could be worse. Stay out of trouble. Keep your head down. Those are your kids, man. I mean, okay, I guess you'll stay out of trouble for a minute, but what's your quality of life? What are you doing with yourself? You got that brain rot, don't you? Anyway, reach out with questions or comments to whitehotrobot@gmail.com. Thank you.